Why silence creates regret. There's a truth most people will never admit. People don't regret hurting you. They only start to regret it when you go silent, not when you cry, not when you beg, not when you exhaust yourself trying to explain your side of the story. The regret begins in that strange, quiet moment when they send a shallow little message and you don't reply. When they poke at you to get a reaction and you don't explode. When they expect you to chase them, but you stand still, calm, unmoved, like a statue carved out of stone. That's when it hits them because your silence speaks louder than any scream. It exposes the truth they've been running from all along. They have no power over you anymore. In this video, we're going to break down 7 silent behaviors that make people regret ever hurting you, even when you don't say a single word. Behavior 1, you observe everything, but you don't react. There's a kind of power most people will never understand. A form of control that comes from behavior 1. Observe, don't react calmness, not explosions. When they attack you with anger, you don't strike back. When they try to provoke you, you don't take the bait. When they try to drag you into their drama, you stay silent. And in that silence, their behavior becomes clearer than ever. Their anger stops looking justified because you didn't spark it. Their irrationality can't hide anymore because you didn't respond for them to blame. Their disrespect becomes the spotlight because you refuse to play their game. A guilty person fears many things, but nothing terrifies them more than your calm. Your explosion makes them feel righteous. Your silence forces them to face themselves. The Stoics have a name for this: mastery of reaction. To master your reaction is to master the entire situation. And here's the irony: you don't have to do anything. You simply stop reacting, and your stillness becomes the judgment they cannot escape. If this already makes you feel stronger, wait for behavior 4. That's when your silence becomes the mirror. Their ego never wanted to look into behavior 2. Detach, don't argue behavior. 2, you don't argue, you detach. One day, you simply stop explaining. Not because you're wrong, not because you can't make your point clearer, but because you finally see that they never wanted to understand you in the first place. You walk away from the argument and they think you're weak. But in reality, you've just done something they could never do. You chose peace over ego. When you detach, they suddenly lose someone to blame, someone to control, someone to react to. And then a quiet emptiness appears. The same space you used to fill with effort, explanations, care, compromise. Now it's empty, and they're forced to feel the consequences of what they created. That's why the Stoics always said, not every battle is worth fighting. True strength is knowing when to walk away. Detachment is not indifference, it's protection. You don't walk away because you don't care. You walk away because you finally value your mind more than meaningless conflict. And when you detach, they are left staring at a truth they can't escape. They destroyed something they once benefited from, and now it's gone. Behavior 3, choose distance behavior. 3, you choose distance instead of confrontation. Distance is a psychological weapon because it reveals truths that words could never expose. You start replying slower. You start having days when you simply don't want to see them. You start giving more time back to yourself. And slowly, you pull your energy away. No noise, no announcement, no warnings, no dramatic goodbye. You just step back. That distance confuses them. Why aren't you saying anything? Why aren't you reacting? What changed? And the painful part is, you don't give them an answer because you're no longer interested in fighting. The distance is the answer, and when they lose access to you, they finally realize you were never replaceable in the first place. Americans have a saying, distance reveals what words hide. Distance exposes what conversations can easily disguise. The quieter you become, the more they feel the loss. The farther you go, the more they feel the emptiness. And that is when regret begins to take shape. If the first 3 behaviors already make you feel stronger, get ready. Behavior 4 is the moment your silence becomes the lesson their ego never wanted to face. Behavior 4, you stay kind when they're waiting for you to explode. There's a kind of silence that drives a person's ego absolutely insane. It's not when you block them. It's not when you insult them. It's not when you disappear like they never existed. It's when you stay calm, stay dignified, stay kind, even when they've pushed you all the way to your emotional limits. Sounds unreasonable, right? Why be kind to someone who hurt you? Why speak gently to someone who never respected you? Because the kindness I'm talking about isn't weakness, it's emotional discipline. When they expect an explosion, they expect yelling, insults, chaos, words you'll regret later. They want you to lose control so they can say, "See, the problem isn't me, it's you. You're too sensitive, you're too dramatic." But you don't give them that gift. They push you, don't shove back. They provoke you, don't swing wild. They wait for you to shatter, but you don't. You stay calm. You speak less, you speak clearly. You don't curse, don't attack, don't stab them with a harsher wound. You simply say your part and step back. And in that moment, something powerful happens. Your calm becomes a mirror reflecting their instability. When two people scream, blame, and throw verbal knives, it's hard to tell who the villain is. But when one person loses control and the other stands grounded, steady, composed, everyone can see exactly who dropped their dignity. Toxic people hate this kind of silence because it says, "I'm not coming down to that level with you. If you want chaos, you'll have to play alone." Stoics never retaliate from a lower place. They believe dignity is a weapon. Anyone who lowers themselves to win has already lost. And your disciplined kindness, it's not a free pass for them. It's a final reminder. I am still myself. You are the one who needs to look in the mirror. When you stay calm, they grow confused. When you stay kind, they feel guilt. When you refuse to explode, they lose every excuse to blame you. You don't teach them through lectures. You teach them by refusing to lower yourself to their level. Behavior 5. Let life deliver justice behavior. 5. You let life deliver the justice. There's a brutal truth every adult eventually learns. You cannot walk through life carrying the mission of punishing everyone who ever hurt you. You can spend months, years, even a lifetime trying to teach them a lesson. But one day you realize the only person being drained is you. You burn energy trying to strike back, talking badly about them, exposing them, proving a point, plotting revenge. It feels like justice, but the more you do it, the more exhausted you become. Your mind becomes trapped in one question. Have they suffered yet? Has life hit them back yet? And in that obsession, you're the one chained to them by your own anger. That's when Stoic philosophy steps in and asks a cold, honest question. Why are you letting the person who hurt you continue to control your mind for even one more day? There is another way to live, a quieter way, a cleaner way. You don't need drama. You don't need an audience. You don't need the world to agree that you were right and they were wrong. You simply pull your energy back. You stop replaying their story in your head every night. You stop fantasizing about the perfect comeback. You stop waiting for karma to strike just so you can feel better. Instead, you choose a harder path, but a purer one. You hand them over to time. You hand them over to life. You let them face the consequences of the choices they made. Silence here isn't weakness. It isn't surrender. It's you telling yourself, I refuse to sacrifice even one more minute of peace just to monitor whether they're suffering. And here's the irony. Manipulative, selfish, destructive people always fall on the blades they sharpened for others. They destroy trust, and no one trusts them. They take advantage of people, and eventually no one wants to stay near them. They deceive and end up living in a world where nothing is real. You don't need to be their judge. Life already has a justice system far sharper than any threat you could ever make. Stoics aren't naive enough to believe that everyone eventually becomes good, but they're wise enough to understand this. No one escapes the consequences of who they are. You stay silent, you walk away, you rebuild your life, and while you're growing, learning, becoming stronger, they remain stuck inside the cage made of their own bad decisions. That isn't revenge, that is the ruthless precision of life itself. Behavior 6. Peace over people-pleasing. Behavior 6. You choose peace over people-pleasing. There's a kind of loss that scares people more than you walking away. It's the moment they realize you no longer need their approval. Back then, you always worried. Are they mad at me? Do they think I'm cold? Do they think I'm a bad person? You bent yourself to fit their expectations. You swallowed disrespect because you were afraid to lose them. You smiled even when it hurt because you didn't want to be called too sensitive. Every small action of yours was controlled by one fear. the fear of losing their approval, but one day that fear breaks, not because you became numb, but because you became tired, deeply tired. You realize that for a few nods, a few compliments, you traded away too much, your sleep, your dignity, your inner peace. So you do what the Stoics did thousands of years ago. You choose peace. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. You stop trying to appear pleasant so everyone will like you. You stop rushing to fix every little discomfort others feel. You begin asking different questions. Does this bring peace to my mind? If I say yes, can I still respect myself? Am I living my life or their script? And when you start answering those questions honestly, many people in your life will suddenly feel uneasy because before they controlled you with their disappointment, a frown could make you apologize. A silent treatment could make you chase them. A bit of attitude could make you feel guilty. But now things are different. They get angry. You stay calm. They're disappointed. You accept it. They walk away. You don't chase anymore. Not because you're cold, but because you finally chose something higher. Your inner peace over the cheap ticket of being liked by people who were never grateful. And that's when the masks fall. Those who were with you for benefit, control, or superiority, they start to reveal who they really are. They say, "You've changed. You're selfish now. You're not the same." The truth is, you did change. You stopped being the person who pleases everyone. You started living like someone with boundaries, principles, and self-respect. And when you do that, the people who truly love you will respect your decision. Those who only wanted to control you will panic because they just lost a valuable supply. Someone who always put them first. Here's the irony. When you stop trying to please everyone, you begin attracting the people who actually deserve you. Because people with depth, with dignity, with wisdom would never ask you to sacrifice yourself just to keep them comfortable. That's why in Stoic philosophy, peace is not a luxury. It's a standard. You choose peace. You accept losing relationships built on dependency. You stop begging for the right to be yourself. And in that moment, the people who once exploited your kindness finally realize they lost something they never deserved to keep. If you see yourself in these silent behaviors, stay with me until the end. Because behavior #7 is the final psychological strike, the one they never recover from, even long after you've walked out of their life. Behavior 7, becoming unreadable. Behavior 7, you make them wonder what happened to you. There's a kind of silence that doesn't just make people regret, it makes them afraid. It's the silence that appears when you become harder to read, harder to predict, harder to reach than ever before. Not because you're playing hard to get, not because you're running some psychological game, not because you're trying to look mysteriously dramatic, but because your mystery now comes from something deeper, your inner growth. Before you always reacted, you always explained, you always chased clarity, you always cleaned up the misunderstandings other people created. But then one day you wake up and ask yourself, why am I exhausting my soul trying to prove something to people who never intended to understand me? And from that moment on, something inside you shifts. No noise, no declarations, no announcements. You just become quieter, more grounded, more private, and more unreachable in a way that unsettles people. They start asking themselves, why don't you react anymore? Why aren't you explaining yourself? Why don't you break as easily as before? What are you thinking? What are you doing? How did you become so strong? And the painful truth is you give them no answers, not because you want to hurt them, but because you no longer believe they deserve your transparency. They underestimated you. They dismissed your presence. They assumed you would always be there. They never imagined this day would come, the day you become a version of yourself they can't read, can't control, can't reach. You're not bitter. You're not vengeful. You simply outgrew who you used to be. And in that growth, you naturally leave them behind. The people who once felt certain they knew you down to your bones now have to face a truth that stings. You have evolved far beyond the version of you they mistreated. And that uncertainty, that mystery, that quiet transformation is what they will never forget. Music. Conclusion. Stoicism doesn't teach you to become a stone. Stoicism teaches you to become the master of yourself. Silence is not the goal. Silence is the outcome. the natural destination of a mind that finally understands what is and isn't worth its attention. Not everyone who hurts you deserves punishment. Not everyone who leaves deserves to be chased. Not everyone who misunderstands you deserves an explanation. Life isn't about being accepted, it's about living in alignment with who you really are. Are you lowering yourself to match the person who disrespected you? Are you sacrificing your dignity to earn someone's approval? Are you abandoning yourself just to keep people who already abandoned you long ago? If your answer is no, then you are walking the same path the strongest people in history once walked. Your silence is not an ending, it's a beginning. The beginning of a life where your energy belongs only to what is worthy. And if you had to learn this lesson through pain, drop one word in the comments. Reclaimed to mark the moment you took back the throne of your own mind. And remember, the Stoic habit is here with you as you build an inner world stronger than any chaos outside. Thank you for watching.